Hello, so it is Tel and Tash, and we're back with another video. This one's pretty fun. It's questions. We kind of did a questions video before, but this one's completely different. We recently got married a couple months, and these are kind of like some questions we never like talked about or like answered for people before, and so we thought like, hey, let's answer a few of these questions. So we have about 10 questions that we're going to go over, and it's kind of about our relationship and questions about being married. So we will get started. But anyway, we'll get to question number one. Question number one is, how long have we been together? So I guess I'll answer that one. We've been together for almost 6 years, right?
It was almost 7. No, it is almost 6. December of
almost 6.
2014.
Yeah. So in December, it'll be 6 years of like dating anniversary, I guess. And then we got engaged July of last year.
20th, 21st.
Of last year. And then we got married August 22nd of this year, of 2020. So a lot of like anniversaries to remember now. But that's question number one. So we've been together a total of almost 6 years now. Question number two is, why did we get married? So I'll let you tell what you think.
Oh, it's a weird, it's kind of a weird question. Like, if you, I don't know, I guess if you dating somebody or you with somebody, like, to me, you should always have some intention. Not saying that just because you're dating somebody, you got a boyfriend or a girlfriend, that you should just like marry them or feel like you have to. But like, I don't know, to me, you date people to find out whether or not you're compatible long term. We obviously knew that pretty much right off the bat. Pretty much right off the bat, and just went through, you know, so many different situations where it's like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be, this is who I'm supposed to be with. It was like, really the biggest thing was just, okay, where are we at, you know, financially, where are we from a stability standpoint, because I do think that's an important factor too. I don't think we had times in our life where it would have been difficult to go through the whole marriage process and things like that. So I feel like once we met that point where we're like, okay, we know we want to do it and we're actually able to do so, I think that's when, you know, that's when it happened.
I agree with Montel. I agree with Tel 100%. I think that we've always had intentions of getting married, like you said, from the beginning. We were just trying to see where things went, but we knew that we were always happy with each other from the beginning. And we always treated our relationship as if we were married anyway. So it's like, oh, whenever, you know, we can financially afford to, you know, plan a wedding and, you know, pay for a wedding and everything, like, oh, well, we'll do it. And so that was really the biggest thing. And so, like I said, we got engaged last year, so a bit over a year ago. So that was around the time that Montel felt like he was, you know, he was ready and that he would be fine with going through with, you know, planning the wedding that was our dream wedding and everything. So went ahead and got married. And we love each other, so we got married.
Really?
Pretty obvious answer, I guess. But question number three is, how did our parents feel about us getting married?
When I walked, I still remember we were leaving your parents' house and you went to the car and I was like, oh, I forgot my wallet. Even though I actually did end up forgetting my wallet, but I just said that I ended up forgetting my wallet. So I had to go back in the house. And I was like, because we were about to go to Chicago that next week. And I talked to her parents and I was like, hey, just want to let y'all know, about to propose, you know, to Tashi next week when we go to Chicago. Been together for a long time. I know this is, you know, something we both want to do. Just wanted to let you guys know that that's what was going on. And your dad, he just shook my hand. Like he didn't have a problem with it at all, really. I feel like they both expected it, and your mom was like,
she asked if I was pregnant.
Yeah, she asked if he was pregnant, and then she tried to act upset about it, but she really wasn't that upset about it, because before I even walked out of the house, she was talking about planning the wedding. So she really wasn't that upset about it. And then my parents, or my mom and my grandma, my mom was actually 100% cool. Like, she was super excited. She was happy about it. She was like, I'm about to have a daughter-in-law. Like, she actually said, you know, she didn't have any like negative thing about it. My grandma did say she was like, we're a little young, we need to wait, something like that, which, you know, I'm sure anybody that's watching this now and you got married at 20, 24, you know, somewhere around that area, I guess that's considered young. But then it's like, at what age are you supposed to be? Like, if 24 is too young, then is 25 perfect? Like at what point does too young stop? I just think it should be based more on the relationship and the maturity or whatever of those two people. But anyway, I think my grandma was really the only one that had any type of negative mindset about it, and it really wasn't like, she loves Tashi to death, but it was just like she thought we were too young or whatever. But even that kind of faded quickly. So,
but I mean, overall, like you said, everybody was happy for us. Like, you told me that my dad was like, oh, I knew that was coming. Like, it was obvious. We've been dating for a long time. Our relationship has always been serious. As like I said, we've always held our relationship to high standards and treating each other as if we were already a married couple. We just didn't have the certificate or whatever you call it, you know, the whole wedding thing. But it was something else she said, about like how grandma was really only going to kind of say something negative or whatever. Well, this is like off topic about the question, but I was working at the bank at the time, and I used to get comments from like older people all the time, like telling me like, oh girl, you're engaged, how old are you? At the time I was 21. And so people were like, oh my gosh, you're too young, and like in my head I'm thinking like, okay, well if I'm too young, what's a good age? Like, you know nothing about relationship, you know nothing about myself or my fiance at the time or my husband, you know nothing about us, so can you really tell me that I'm too young if you know nothing about me? So that's the thing that always got to me. But
people just push their bad experiences with their relationship with marriage on other people, but they don't understand, like, we didn't meet each other and then 3 months later decide that we want to get married before even knowing each other, or brush all these different problems under the rug and like they just got worse and you got married. Like, no, like we've been exactly the same for the last 6 years. So it's like there's no guesswork. There's no like, oh, this person didn't turn out to be what I thought he was, or whatever the case may be. Like, I feel like with a lot of people, that's the only reason you would say, oh, don't get married, is if you had, like, nobody that has a good relationship is gonna say, oh, don't get married, or oh, you should get married. It's always the people that had a failed marriage or failed marriages.
And like you said, people put their bad experiences on you. And like you said, like we have a healthy relationship. We both can agree on that. We're really big on communicating with each other. We know how to communicate with each other, and that's all that matters. Whatever people say and their opinions, I've kind of learned to just like, that doesn't matter. What matters is what we think. So I'm doing better with kind of like pushing that off and not worrying about that. But we'll get into the next question. How did we know that we want to get married? But I'll kind of skip that one because we kind of already explained that in the why did we get married. So the next one is, did premarital counseling help us? Because we did do the whole premarital counseling. Was it like 3 or 4 months forward?
Yeah, about 3 months. About 3 months of weekly sessions, and then like we had homework for after every session. It was definitely, we didn't come across a topic that we hadn't discussed. Like, we've always discussed like our religious views, political views, finances, like everything that like a lot of couples may, you know, come to a fork in the road at. Like, we had already discussed all of those. But it was good to kind of like the compatibility test, the love language test, like all those different things that we got to, you know, experience. It was cool.
And I just mentioned that we even found out that we were like compatible, like super, super compatible, and like every single category. Like, let's say there was 10 categories, we were like 50-50, or, you know, we agreed on everything almost 100%. Like 9 out of 10, I want to say. Now, which I wasn't surprising to us, but going into it, I kind of thought that there was going to be some things that like, well, I knew that we had talked about everything, but just what you hear from people is like, oh my gosh, there's going to be some things that you're like, oh my gosh, we never even thought to talk about that, to discuss that. Like, that didn't happen for us. Like, everything that, and the person who did our premarital counseling was the same person that married us, and he's like a longtime friend of ours now. He actually, funny story is, he actually was our youth pastor when Montel and I met when we were younger. We started going to the same church. Well, he went to that church and I started going, but we'll talk about that in an earlier video. But anyway, it was our old youth pastor, and so he was kind of like, there may be some things that you guys haven't discussed or haven't talked about, but actually there was really, like Tel said, there was nothing that we hadn't talked about. So it was good to go through those questions and just to see that like, oh, we are really meant to be with each other, but we already knew that beforehand. But it was a fun experience.
It didn't give us question marks. I know
Yeah.
for some, like the marriage counseling, like it leaves you with more questions and answers about what you're about to do. But it was kind of just more like confirmation that we're on the right track. So.
And so the next one is, do we argue? I think every couple argues. That's a normal thing. I wouldn't say that we argue in like not too healthy way, because we actually rarely ever argue. And it probably sounds like I'm lying, like it's like, oh, all couples argue all the time, but we really don't argue that much. Or at least if we have a disagreement about something, then we're going to talk about it. Like
that's what it is though. It's a disagreement, not an argument. An argument is always meant to find a winner. Like for me, I guess you can speak for you, but for me, like I have no interest in winning. I just want to figure out what the best solution is going to be for the both of us, for whatever it is that we're disagreeing about, or whatever the case may be. But like, I have your best interest in mind, you have my best interest in mind, so we know that we're not arguing from a I guess you say unfair standpoint. Because if you're arguing for you and I'm arguing for me, then we're never gonna come to the same conclusion. So I feel like that helps a lot. Like we argue to come to an understanding, or disagree to come to an understanding, as opposed to argue to win that particular debate. So
yeah, no matter if we kind of have to like meet in the middle or whatever it is, we're gonna come up with something to kind of like resolve the issue. That we don't brush things off. We're really big about talking, but we've been that way since day one, so that's been really helpful. Like there's nothing that has happened like since we've gotten married in the last, how long has it been, like 2.5 months or so? Not even 2.5 months. But anyway, 2 months ago, nothing has changed like drastically. Actually, nothing's changed at all, because we still treat each other the same. We still have the same standards. Like nothing is different. And that's something people ask us all the time too, is, okay, so how's married life? It's the same as it was before we were married. So nothing's different.
Literally any changes besides people asking us how we're married.
Right, that's the only thing. And I know you said that to somebody, because somebody asked you that one day, like, well, nothing's different besides people asking you how married life is, but everything's the same. But yeah. Okay, the next one is, do we want to have kids? And these are all questions that we get asked a lot. So, do we want to have kids? And if so, when do we want to have kids? So, yes, we do want to have kids. And I'll let you explain about the when. It's kind of
like 5-ish years.
Maybe less. Maybe four or
I was
5.
thinking more like 5.5.
We go back and forth about this all the time, but it just depends on multiple different things.
Right now, the babies are the businesses. So that's why it's like, okay, let's get them in the school first. Let's get them growing up a little bit. Let's get them a little bit more mature, and then have actual babies. Has been our thought process on that. So 5 years seems like a good time frame, but
and also it's not just that, but it's that plus wanting to have like our potential forever home, wanting to have an actual house. And right now we live in like a downtown apartment. Like we don't want to bring kids into an apartment right now, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just what's in our plan. Like I said, we want to be able to have a house, and that's kind of on a schedule that we're thinking like closer to 5 years would be the time that we want to see if this is where we want to live forever, and if so, possibly more than likely build a house. And then once we have the house, it's like, oh, house comes first, then kids. So it's, like I said, there's multiple things that go into it. But I mean, if we were to have a kid 2 years down the road, I mean, of course it would be fine and we'd love our kid, but the plan is about 5 years.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay, so the next one is, how do we work together without going crazy?
We do go crazy sometimes. What's that random? What's that? Alexa?
Yeah, it's really random. It'll stop in a second.
But yeah,
anyway.
We do go crazy sometimes. That's actually the only thing we ever argue about, or the only thing we ever debate about, at any type of intensity. it's pretty much always work stuff. So, but it's not. Overall, it's good. We really don't care about, like, some people feel like, oh my God, I need to get away from this person. We don't ever really have that feeling. Only thing may be some disagreements about process or what exactly we should do in certain situations, things like that. But I mean, when you go to work and you work with coworkers, like, I'm almost certain that you've had a coworker that gets on your nerves more than me. I've definitely had coworkers that get on my nerves more than you. So it's like, I mean, it's a trade-off. Like, yeah, working with your spouse can be kind of hectic sometimes, but even if you don't work with them, you're going to be working with a coworker, and those coworkers can drive you absolutely crazy. So,
right. And that's why I'd rather my coworker be my husband than anybody else. It's just, it's better. But it's still, like, yeah, sometimes we do bump heads, but overall, like, we have a fun time and we enjoy working with each other. Like, if there's something that needs to be changed or fixed, it's so much easier to sit down and talk to your husband or your wife about it versus me coming home talking to my husband about something that my coworker didn't do right or something that I wish we would have done this way. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we can kind of like hold off and kind of be nervous to talk to people about that, but we don't have that. Like, everything's completely open and we're just really understanding about what the other person wants. It just, I think it helps, just because we have that, you know, that relationship. So I think that really helps.
And we get to share those, you know, successes together.
We get to win together.
Yeah, getting to win together. I think that's extremely important for relationships. Like, even if you don't work together, I think, you know, couples should experience winning together of some sort. I just feel like it associates the other person with greatness. Like, you look at that other person and you feel like this is the person that's going to elevate you, take you to another level, help you do something that you have never been able to do. So I feel like it helps a lot.
Me too, for sure. It's something we get asked all the time, or like, you know, friends and things, a lot. But anyway, it is, did we wait until marriage? And the answer to that is no, which we're both completely fine with that. We're totally fine with our decision on not waiting. And I just think that is based on, you know, that specific, you know, your relationship and, you know, what you guys decide, and depending on, you know, the circumstances. But we were fine with that.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like a lot of people that are waiting, like yeah, you get to say you're waiting, but like, you're towing the line, you're playing tricks on God. Like that's how I feel the large majority of everybody is. So that's why, like, if somebody tries to say something about, you know, our situation or whatever, like, well, at least I wasn't trying to, you know, play God for a fool.
And something else that I kind of think about kind of in the same way is, like, when people ask that, like I just said, like in a few questions earlier, it's like people ask us, like, how have things been any different for you guys since you've been married? How's married life? And we're like, no, our relationship is completely the same. We're just as happy now as we were before we were married. So if we are still treating our relationship the same, and the only thing that's different is that we are legally married now, like, what's the difference? So what's the difference between before marriage and after marriage in our situation? So that's what I think about. But anyway, well, this is actually our last question, unless you have anything else that you can think of that people ask you. But it is, what's your favorite thing about your spouse? That was kind of tricky. So many different things I could really pick. But one of the things that really stands out to me about Tel is that he's super like hardworking, and like literally whatever you put your mind to, like he's gonna make sure it happens. He's super dedicated, and it's like if he wants something, he has to do everything he can do to get to it. Like no matter what, his work ethic or personal fitness, even though, you know, fitness trainers and everything, but like his personal fitness or personal like financial goals, like he's going to do whatever he can do to reach all of his goals that he has set out for himself. So that's really one of the biggest things, because he's really like a go-getter. But I could say that, I could say personality, he's super funny, like there's so many different things. But that's the top one, I can say. What about you?
I would say,
a tricky question.
I would say for you, the biggest thing is probably just like, I don't know, like the caring nature. Like you care about everybody, everything. Like obviously sometimes, you know, that's a negative for you. But pretty much 95% of the time, it's a positive, and it's good. Like for somebody like me, sometimes I know I can be a little cold. I can be a little, you know, nonchalant about a lot of situations. But you kind of help balance me out because you care, you know, deeply about family, friends, me, things like that, and it kind of helps me out a lot. But I feel like that's probably the biggest thing, like seeing you how much you care about people.
That's really sweet.
Probably the best trait anybody can have. At the end of the day, if we all cared about people as much as we cared about ourselves, the world would be a better place.
Better place. There you go. But that was about like 9 or 10 or so questions that we get asked a lot, especially since we've gotten married. Like we said, lots of people think that things have been different for us maybe since we got married, but it has not. Literally, like I said, we're just as happy now as we were before we were married. Nothing's different for us, but that's not a negative. That's a positive. That's a good thing. That's, you know, something good that you want.
If you guys enjoyed this, or if you can even answer some of these questions, if you're jumping in and you're, you know, recently married, or you're 25 or younger and you just got married and you dealt with a lot of these same questions, comment below and let us know, because I'm sure that we are not alone in this situation at all. And if you need to blow off some steam in terms of, you know, actually voicing your displeasure with some of those questions that you get, or even just like the certain situations that you're put in because of, you know, being married young, feel free to comment down below. We'll have a discussion with you.
Remember that you are not the only one. I'm pretty sure I see so many different videos about being married young, married at 22, married at 21, at whatever age you are, you know, in your early 20s. People kind of give you a lot of trouble about that. Like, you're not the only one. We all experience that. But like I said, I've really learned to be able to push that off, because at the end of the day, like, they're not my spouse. They're not the person that I'm married to. They're not the person that I'm supposed to be, you know, they're not the person I'm marrying. So it doesn't matter. Like, whatever they feel or whatever their beliefs are, like, it truly does not matter, because at the end of the day, like I said, they don't know about your relationship and how committed you guys are to each other and how much you actually love each other. So it doesn't matter. And like I'm telling us all the time, like, is there a difference between our relationship and somebody that's, you know, well, there is. Lots of times there's a difference between our relationship and somebody that's 50 years old and somebody's cheating on somebody and all this different stuff, like
beating on each other and cheating back, and
make our relationship, just because we're young, our relationship is supposed to be not better than theirs, even though we're in a committed relationship. But anyway, that could be for another day. We could talk about that all day long. But yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this video. And you got anything else to add?
I think we're good. Make sure before y'all leave that you subscribe to the channel,
For sure.
Leave a thumbs up and turn notifications on so that you don't miss any more videos going forward, so that you can stay locked in with Tel and Tash, and we can talk to you guys, or, you know, just kind of walk you through what we're doing, what Tash is doing mostly on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, but that's it for today, and we will see you guys in a few days. Talk to you later.